Hi guys, and welcome to the Crochet Cakes English YouTube channel. In this channel you will find podcast episodes and tutorials. In today's podcast episode we are going to be talking about my crochet wardrobe once again, but we are also going to be talking about tension, something that drives us a little bit crazy. Hello! I hope that you guys have been doing well. This is episode 101 of the Crochet Cakes podcast, which is very exciting. I cannot believe we've actually made it past 100 episodes. And what makes it even more special is that the last time I sat down to talk to you guys and premiered a YouTube video, it was my birthday. And it was episode 100. In it, to make it extra special, I announced the Eat Cake cowl, which is a cowl based on the Eat Cake sweater that I've recently released. The paid for pattern is available via Etsy if you wish to support the shop, or visiting my blog also supports my YouTube channel as well, because if you can get ranked up to a certain number of views per month, you can get nice paying ads that actually have to deal with your blog. So that's all exciting. And I want to thank you, each and every one of you, for all the love that you gave to that sweater. It is definitely my favorite sweater. Unfortunately, I cannot wear it anymore. We are up to 70s and 80s in Florida, so it's very hot. And as much as I love wool and I'm a champion for wearing it, I cannot wear a wool sweater in 80-degree sun. I just can't do it. I can do it in 75, not in 80. So I am going to be, hopefully soon, starting my second version of the sweater, and I'm going to do it in a linen cotton blend. So I'm excited about that. But what's even more exciting is that since it was my birthday, I decided to do a giveaway, and the giveaway was for a gorgeous hank of yarn that was very kindly donated by Catherine of Crafternoon Treats, a longtime friend. and also your choice of a Ravelry pattern. And I just chose a random comment picker. I literally Googled comment picker for YouTube, and the tag was happy birthday. As long as your comment had happy birthday, you were entered to win. So thank you for all the birthday wishes, all the sweater love, and your condolences, because yeah, that's also the episode where I shared that my grandfather passed away. So without further ado, the winner of the giveaway is Melissa Chapman. So Melissa, thank you so much for always watching the channel and leaving comments. So congratulations, Melissa. Please message me, private message me on either Instagram, Ravelry, or send me an email, and I will post the yarn out to you and let me know what Ravelry pattern of up to the value of $10 you would like. And speaking of Ravelry, I do apologize for the people that couldn't find the cowl thread. I have posted it on the Eat Cake sweater video. I posted the thread for the chatter thread on Ravelry, and I will post the link as well in the description box of this video. You will always find the links to things I talk about in the description box of the video, and I am also trying to get into the habit of doing chapters, so you can just immediately click on whatever it is that you're interested in watching from the podcast. And that way it's more interactive, it lets you decide what you want to watch, and yep, I want to make this podcast watching experience as comfortable for you as I can, and as participatory. I don't think that's a word, but maybe you get what I mean. So yes, now that we've announced the winners, so once again, congratulations, Melissa. I'm going to swiftly move on to some crochet talk. And as I said at the beginning of the video, podcast, whatever you want to call it, we are returning to my crochet wardrobe, and it's actually a lot bigger than I had thought. But the funny thing is that I always use certain pieces of my wardrobe, so I kind of cycle through the same 5 shirts that I've crocheted, and it's mostly due to the fact that I love crocheting in wool and natural fibers, and like I said, you can't really, like inside the house, I could wear a wool short sleeve top because I'm inside the house, there's central AC. put me outside in the 85-degree boiling heat sun, no wind, that's just not gonna fly. So, since we've entered into that summer state of mind, I guess, I thought I would break out part of my summer wardrobe because I do have a lot of short sleeve tops, but I've decided to start with my cotton short sleeve tops. And I'm going to start with the oldest one that I've pulled out here. And it is the Popcorn Pullover. This one is a vintage pattern that I bought the PDF off from Etsy. And it's called the Popcorn Pullover because it has pops of the popcorn stitch, every certain amount of stitches. And one of my favorite things from this popcorn pullover is the construction and the combination of knitting and crochet. This combines a crochet top and then you pick up stitches to do a knit rib, as well as you're supposed to do a knit rib cuff and a neckline. Now, this is where tension and gauge come in. So I crocheted this sweater.
At the front door.
Right, so I don't remember where we left off. It's been a while since I stopped the recording because my husband was at the front door. Anyway, I think we were talking about the popcorn pullover, and I'm just gonna scooch so I can share the screen with it. So the popcorn pullover is, I have to say, one of my favorite crochet patterns. It's one of those patterns that I've made once, but I still want at least 3 or 4 tops with different colors. And of course, different versions of it as well, because this pattern was meant to be crocheted with DK weight cotton yarn. And I didn't have that. What I had was a sport weight cotton linen blend. This is from Forbidden Woolery back then, so I think it's Forbidden Fiber Co. right now. And I love her cotton linen base, mostly because when I made this, I lived in Puerto Rico, and yeah, I mean, there's no difference. I mean, in Florida, you get a little bit more of a winter, but anyway, I didn't really do a gauge swatch. I just started crocheting using the same hook size called for, and I did get a shirt that fit me a lot smaller than it was, the design was meant to be, because DK weight would have made it more, you know, of an 80s look where the top will do kind of like a little bit of bubble because of the rib, which I didn't really like. So this is a really good top for me. I love the color. I called it my chocolate frog top, I think, because the popcorn stitches kind of look like little chocolate frogs to me. And yeah, this is still one of my all-time favorite tops. What happened here was that since I was a new knitter, my tension, my gauge with knitting was really, really tight. So when I picked up stitches in the neckband to knit them, I could barely get this over my head. So I'm not wearing it today because I put makeup on and then I got dressed, and I just didn't want to go through the hassle of, you know, doing all these faces to try and keep my makeup away from the top. And the bottom rib is not too much of a big deal. It all worked very nicely in the end. I didn't do the knit cuff though, because no, I think I just wanted to finish this top. So I think that's all I want to say about this pattern. I really like it because it combines knitting and crochet, and I think it's just one of those things people tend to shy away from because you're either team knitting or team crochet. But the reality is that crochet and knitting both have their strong suits. I mean, knit fabrics are a lot, they lack the structure of crochet stitches. So if you're knitting a blanket, you can add a lot of structure to your blanket by doing a crochet edge, which incidentally, that's the course I'm going to be teaching for my Knit and Escape class, which is next week. Oh my god, yes, my Knit and Escape class, it is next week on Friday, and you can check out all the details on the Knit and Escape website. And my class, as I said, is going to be crochet edgings, so just combining knit and crochet because yeah, I like doing that. I like doing knit ribs on my socks as well, so there we go. And next in line is the Riveret top, and this is a pattern that can be found in Pom Pom Quaterly. I think it was issue 16 of Pom Pom Quaterly. It's the issue where it's all white or beige, all the items in it. And this was the first time I made the Riveret top. It is a bright pumpkin orange color, and this was also the only time I won a cowl giveaway. So I entered this into, I believe it was the school sweater cowl. It was something like that. It was hosted by Crafty Escape, Tamara of Crafty Escapism, and if I'm not mistaken, Faye of Crochet Circle podcast. Oh my god, my brain is not doing its job today. So what can I tell you about this top? It's very bittersweet because, as I said, there's some good memories of participating in cowls and winning a prize, which was exciting, but I also crocheted this during Hurricane Maria, which, yeah, it was very devastating to the island of Puerto Rico, so yeah, it's I like looking at it because it's very pumpkin, and I called it my pumpkin pasties top. I didn't do a gauge swatch for this either, but it came out the size that the pattern called for, so I wasn't really concerned. My thing with gauge is very subjective, but we'll get more on that a little bit later after I finish talking about this. So thoughts about the Riveret top. I love the construction. It is essentially modular crochet because you crochet each section in pieces and then you join them all together. And I do not remember the yarn I use. I know it's a cotton polyester blend, I believe, because if you notice, there are some really bright orangey strands, and that is the polyester. I tend to use this a lot during September and October because it's not sweater weather here, but it is pumpkin season, so it's very exciting. I like the fit of it. This one's particularly heavy, and even though it is a cotton, it's about a DK worsted weight cotton, so it's very heavy to wear, but you know, it also breathes a lot because the stitches, the raglan stitches here are very open. So I really like the construction of this top, and I would like to imitate the construction without imitating the design, if that makes sense. So that is my pumpkin pasties top, which is really the Riveret top, version 1 of the Riveret top. One thing that I would have liked to have done was to add a border because it doesn't look, the joins don't look really decent, and even though I have blocked this now because, you know, wash it after you use it and things, it doesn't feel complete. So yeah, if I had more of this yarn, I would definitely add a border. And third in my cotton wardrobe, cotton blend wardrobe, it's one of the most recent ones I finished. I think I finished this in 2019. Yes, 2019, because I finished it so I would have it with a skirt to wear for my stay in Puerto Rico right after my wedding. So this is from the book. This is a top. It's not my design. It's from the book Learn to Crochet, Love to Crochet by Anna. Oh my god, let me go grab the book. I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back. So yes, it is Anna Wilkinson. This is Learn to Crochet, Love to Crochet. I got it used. I love buying used books. That's me. So this is just a cropped tee. That's the name of the design, and it is a great introduction to a crochet garment. I want to make one in yellow. I really love this design. So it was a design for worsted weight wool or acrylic yarn, I believe, which I did not do. So what did I use? I used a Rowan Tetra Cotton, which is a kind of tube-like yarn, and it is got different colors. You can see that it's got a lighter tan, a darker tan, and some grays spread throughout the top. And also, because I've used this top so much and I actually machine wash it, my ends are coming out, which is embarrassing. I'm gonna have to weave those in again. But this top, it worked just fine. I think I made the second to smallest size because I was using a DK weight yarn and I was using the same hook size, but you know, I wanted something that would fit me. So I did choose the second to smallest size. This is a very cropped top, as you can see. I believe it measures 15 inches. So if you want something longer, then just add length right before you split for your sleeves, and maybe as well in the back. Now, what I love about this top was the shaping in the neckline. So when it's crocheted in pieces, so in your front, you of course do some decreases here, and then you keep carrying on to create this round neck, which is one of my favorites, and it's also very high up. I love a high up neck, even though today I'm just wearing a t-shirt that doesn't have a high up neck. I do like a high up neck. So it also has sleeve caps. You know, you crochet your sleeves separate and then you attach them here, and it's also a very flattering look, I think, when you do your sleeves separate and then you stretch them to fit your armhole. So it's a set-in sleeve. That's what I'm saying. I really like the look of those. They're a lot more trouble, you know, they're a lot more time-consuming, and it is, if you've sewn before, you're familiar with the technique, but if you've never sewn before, it can be a little bit of a, how do I do this? So yeah, this is the cropped tee. It's also one of the ones that I use the most often just because I love high waist skirts, and having a really cropped top with high waist skirts is one of my favorite outfits. And you know, the brown, it's very flattering for my skin tone as well, and it goes with so many of my jewelry and skirts. So this is a very huge wardrobe staple. Now, as I said, I didn't do a gauge swatch. I rarely do gauge swatches, if I'm honest. I do them for the patterns I'm designing because that gives me an idea of how I should proceed with the grading or the sizing of the garment. But tension is very, very subjective. It is subjected to using the same hook the person used. If the person used a wooden hook, their stitches probably look different than if they used a metal hook. It's due to the yarn they used, how happy they were, how upset they were, because all these emotions and technology affect how your gauge works up. So my rule of thumb is that if I am making something, for example, from a book where you could probably go on Ravelry and find, but if you're like me, you didn't do it, then I just look at the sizings that are offered and I look at my yarn. And if it's going to be a smaller yarn, I know I can't go for the smallest size because I will end up with a garment that is going to be smaller. So I just tend to measure by that, more of knowing the yarns I'm working with than anything else, because if you notice, all these are cotton and cotton blend yarns. Cotton doesn't stretch the way wool does. So wool tends to stretch a lot and then bounce back. Cotton, once it stretches, that is it. So it's one of those things that you would keep in mind. And I have an aunt actually that always makes her clothes a size smaller, so they tend to be really fitted, but as she uses them with the wear of the item, they loosen up. So that's a bit kind of like knitting, linen. Linen will loosen up the more you wash it, the more translucent, the softer it becomes, the more wearable it becomes, in my opinion. Anyway, so yes, if you'll notice, I mentioned that I hadn't done a gauge swatch for any of these, and I still ended up with a wearable item. And that is really due to just experimenting with yarns and finding out how they stretch. And it's really kind of also a bit of ignorance in my time, because this was one of the first that I made no gauge swatching. I just jumped right in, and I was pleased with the result I got, but also I was lucky that I actually ended up with a garment that I could wear, even though it was a lot more cropped than what I wanted, because I used a thinner yarn, so I wouldn't get the density of the stitches. So it is a little bit more holy than the original pattern probably was, but then again, you know, pictures only tell you one side of the story. I wasn't there with the designer when she was making it, so all these things to say that don't be discouraged if you don't get gauge in pattern. It's due to many things, especially, for example, in crochet socks. Crochet socks are really finicky. If you did not have the same yarn blend, hook, it all changes. And me, I tend to have a very loose gauge for crochet socks. So sometimes when my mom will make my socks, she'll say like, yo, I had to go up to the largest size because my gauge is a lot looser. But all that just comes with experience and a lot of playing around. So I would honestly say don't be discouraged, and if you have to frog back, listen, I am designing something for a magazine commission and I've had to frog it back so many times because it's just, my tension has changed every time I pick up that project. So sometimes I'm really stressed about it not going the way I want it to go. It's really tight. And then when I come back to it, my tension is so loose that I just have to rip back and start over again. It's just a part of the job, I think. And that's the little bit of an introduction to tension and swatching that I wanted to give you. So ultimately my thing is, when I swatch to find out how my yarn is going to play. And I usually do a big swatch when I do it, and sometimes I will even start the design in the smallest size that I've calculated so I can have a large amount of fabric to play with and know what my gauge is actually going to be like, because that is another thing. When you do a really small 4x4 gauge swatch, you are not getting the weight of that fabric. You are just getting a little bit of a sample of how the stitches are going to look together. Should you go up or down a hook size? That's all you're really getting. But when you block your garment and you add in the weight and the seaming and all that together, it's going to ultimately look way different than it did your swatch. So that is why usually when I design patterns, I will make up a huge chunk of the size that I'm making up and then block that. And then do my tension and gauge and grading. So if you are interested in sharing your swatching experiences, then please comment down below. If you are interested in continuing the topic of swatching and what you can do, then also let me know in the comments down below, and you know, I can put up a little video of swatching experiences and things like that. And as for crochet, this is it, guys. I haven't actually crocheted a lot. As I said, I've just been mostly spending most of my time bonding with some yarn for a commission. That is simple. Pattern is written. It's just not my gauge. Like I said, it's been a big issue. But other than that, I've been reading a lot, a whole lot. A lot. I haven't started any new projects. I haven't started the Lawrenson sweater that I wanted to start because I'm a little bit of a chicken right now. But I have read a lot. I got several books for my birthday, which I'm very excited. They all had to do with either knitting or crochet and, you know, cottage core, which is an aspect trying to understand more because it's an aesthetic that really attracts me. So I'm gonna go get those books and be right back. Okay, so I'm back with my books, and since the first thing I mentioned was cottage core, let's just talk a little bit about that book. So if you're not familiar, cottage core, think Marie Antoinette trying to be a live a simpler life in Versailles and building the Queen's Hamlet with where she, you know, would pick eggs from the chickens and just wear casual clothing and make things by hand. I'm assuming. So it goes back that way. So it's like the idyllic life of growing your own things, making your own things, and just being surrounded by nature. That's essentially cottagecore. There is a great YouTube video that I will link down below that explains it so much better than I did. But ever since I saw that video, I kind of realized, wait a minute, it's kind of my whole aesthetic, that's baking your own bread and things like that. So when I saw this, the little book of cottagecore, I added it to my wish list, and my sister gifted it to me. So as I said, it's the little book of cottagecore, Traditional Skills for a Simpler Life by Emily Kent. Now, because of the cover and the book title, I really thought this was going to be like the little book of Hygge. So the little book of Hygge by the Happiness Research Institute, or somebody that works in the Happiness Research Institute, explains and compares what Hygge is and how you achieve it, and how it's a verb, it's a noun, it can be so many different things. So that's kind of what I was expecting when I got this book. Now, this book doesn't really get into what cottagecore is. It just kind of explains certain skills and things that you do to achieve this cottagecore lifestyle. So for example, tea drinking. So it goes a little bit of beyond the basics of tea, exploring different tea books and different tea blends and how to achieve that. Herbal medicine, baking. It also has a little pattern for cross stitching, hand sewing. So different techniques like that. It's more of a little technique manual than an explanation of cottagecore, how it is, and straight up how to achieve it. It doesn't really talk about that. Like I said, it just gives you the skills to kind of work your way towards that cottagecore life. I did love the chapter on tea time, because now I think I'm kind of turning into my husband with how he is about coffee. I feel like that's the way I'm turning about tea. So I was very excited to have this, and even though it's not what I was expecting, I still like it. It's a quick little guide to have on hand about introduction to soap making and things like that. So I'm treating it as an encyclopedia kind of thing. And in the crochet realm, I got this mini kingdom. And this is all Allie of Starry Eyes. Allie, it's her fault because she was talking about this book in the podcast. And you know I'm not an amigurumi maker, but guys, these are so cute. And one of the first things when I'm feeling better that I will be making is, where is the chef? I'm totally making a chef. I mean, oh man, oh god, look at these little sheeps. Like, they're so, oh, here's the chef. Oh, look. This is the chef. So, I'm very excited to actually make the patterns in this book. You guys know I'm not an amigurumi maker, but this book, I mostly don't make amigurumi because it's very, very hard on my hands. I already have a lot of problems with this area. I forgot what that's actually called. I think it's called mother's thumb. That's a constant, and also carpal tunnel. So yeah, amigurumi's rough on my hands, but I couldn't. And the other one is something that I have been eyeing forever. Will I make patterns from this book? I don't know, but I just want to look at it. This is Tudor Roses by Alice Starmore. So it's a knit garment book inspired by the Tudors, and it's so, the color work is so gorgeous, and it gives you a brief quote of all the, right before it starts a pattern, and it's got written instructions, charted instructions, but this is what I mean. So you've got Margaret Tudor, the inspiration, and then the knit. So I love the look of it, and I may or may not make these, I don't know, but I love the beauty of this book, and I was very tempted actually to take the charts and try and crochet a version of the Colorworks from, well, this one's one of my favorites. and it's got not really color work, but just look at the sleeves, the little bell details, and the way it's just fitted. I really like this one, and this is, I think it's, yep, Elizabeth Woodville. And it's just such a beautiful book. Talks a little bit about the Tudors and the Tudor dynasties. So this is not the original. It's, as I says in the back, it was originally published in 1998. So this is a newer version, but I just, it's so beautiful. All the patterns in here are very beautiful. Would I make them? I don't know. I like the idea of them. Oh, this is my favorite. If I start with something, it's going to be this one. This is Jane Seymour. And it is beautiful, the details that are here. You can see the inspiration kind of just... If you want to just sit down and look at something pretty and imagine it, then do like me and ask for it for Christmas or purchase it yourself. I got, these are all from Amazon, by the way. So yeah, that is it for today's crafty content. I hope that you are keeping well. Other than reading, I haven't been doing much, as I said. My hands have really been acting up, and I've been fighting with crochet, really. So yeah, that is it for today's podcast. I hope that you've enjoyed that little glimpse into the crochet wardrobe, and please let me know in the comments below what you would like to hear about next. And yeah, let's just chat, guys. Let's just chat. Yeah, I don't know where I was going. The camera cut off, so I had to empty my memory card and come back, and I'm a bit of a scatterbrained this March. This March has made me into more of a Pisces than I usually am. So I think that for my sanity and yours, I will cut off the video here and wish you all some very, very happy crafting. Bye.